This is the Insta360 Flow. It's a small, compact smartphone gimbal that extends the capabilities when you're out shooting videos and photos. So in this video, I'm going to show you everything about the Insta360 Flow gimbal. I'm also going to show you how it works so we could really see the difference between working with a smartphone gimbal and just working with your smartphone holding it handheld. And I just want to say a special thanks to Insta360 for sponsoring this video. So what is the Insta360 Flow? The Flow is a smartphone gimbal that's designed for everyday use, whether you're a pro or not. The casual filmer will like that it's an easy gimbal to use and it won't get in the way. However, with the advanced stabilization technology, content creators can use it to level up their videos while vlogging, live streaming, or making shorts. Also, athletes such as dancers or skateboarders or fitness professionals will like how quickly this gimbal can respond to your movements and be able to use it to capture dynamic footage of movement and workouts. Now here's the key features that the Flow has. It has a one-step rapid deployment, it's got a 3-axis stabilization, it's got deep tracking 3.0, it's got a built-in selfie stick and tripod, it's got smart wheel control, it's a magnetic design for your phone, it's foldable and portable, has an all-day 12-hour battery life, the app has AI-powered editing built in, and you have some creative effects so you could do more than just getting stable footage. Now first let's go over the one-step rapid deployment. So you'll notice that the design of this gimbal is very different than others on the market. And part of it is the longer arm that extends away from the control unit and how small and compact the grip is where you hold the gimbal. The reason for this strange design is that when you fold it up, it becomes the perfect rectangle that fits easily in your bag, your pocket, or your purse. When I was out filming using the Insta360 Flow, I would just fold it up and throw it in my back pocket, and it was easy to have on me the entire day. Now your phone connects with a small magnetic clip that can go either just on the phone directly, or depending on the size of your case, it will fit on your case. Right now I have a Moment case around my phone and the clip works just fine. Now how you actually work with this gimbal is that you connect your phone using the magnet and then you just flip the gimbal upwards and it instantly turns on and it's ready to use. So this action of just flipping from the locked position to open is one step and you have a gimbal that's ready to start shooting. So it's a much easier setup than a lot of other gimbals that are out there. And to put it away, you just do the reverse and then you could slide it into your pocket or your bag. And the cool thing is with the way that it folds down, it protects the joystick and the control unit so that you don't have any issues with it getting busted during transport. Now next we got to talk about the integrated tripod. So built into the bottom of this gimbal is a full tripod to allow this to set anywhere. I can't believe no other gimbals have this design feature because it is so useful. When you're working with a smartphone gimbal, it's always a pain to have to carry a little tripod with you, and it's just an extra piece that you have to screw on when you want to set it down, and it's something that could get lost. So with the Insta360 Flow, it has a 2-stage design that comes out of the grip. The first stage just extends the grip so it's easier to handhold. And also when you're in this first stage, the tripod can't expand, so it's just used to make the operation easier. Now the second stage pulls out even further, and when you pull this out, it unlocks the tripod and allows you to set the gimbal down wherever you go. And the tripod is super easy to put away. You just fold it down and push it in and you're ready to start filming. Now let's talk about how this whole gimbal is set up. So on the front there is a smart wheel which has most of your controls for the gimbal. There's a trigger on the back and then there's 2 USB-C ports on the gimbal. So first let's go over this smart wheel because it works a little bit differently than other gimbals I've worked with in the past. So around the edges there's a zoom control that allows you to zoom in and out using your camera. Now you could control how fast you zoom by how much pressure you push on this wheel. The smart wheel itself is a touch panel which allows you to change between the different quick modes when you're out recording. Now there's also a few buttons on the smart wheel. There's a record button, there's a power button, and there's a switch button which allows you to go from vertical to horizontal mode quick and easy. Now on the back there's a trigger. You press it once, it's going to start tracking your subject. You press it twice, it's going to recenter your gimbal, and you press it 3 times, and the camera's going to completely rotate around. So if you are vlogging and you want to use the better cameras on your smartphone, well, you just flip the gimbal around and you could use those better cameras. Now the USB-C that's near the smart wheel allows you to charge the gimbal, and it says in on the USB-C port. Now there's a second USB-C port up by your phone and it has an out on it. Now this provides power for this little light that could sit on top of your gimbal. So if you're in darker situations and you just want a little bit of light, well, Insta360 provides this little tiny light, and it's got some controls on the top, so you could change the color temperature and you could also change the brightness. So you have some flexibility when you're working with this little light, depending on which situation you're filming it. And then on the bottom of this gimbal, there is a 1/4-20 mount. So if you don't want to use the tripod that's built into the gimbal, or you want to use like a longer extension pole, you can attach it to the bottom of this gimbal just like any other. Now let's talk through some of the gimbal modes that you have access to. So the first mode that is on this gimbal is a new mode called Auto. And this is unique because I haven't seen auto settings for your gimbal modes on any other smartphone gimbal. So it's a beginner-friendly mode that automatically adjusts your gimbal settings based on your movements. For example, if you're running, the gimbal is going to become less sensitive and more stable, whereas when you're walking, it's going to become more sensitive and it's going to follow your actions a little bit better. So it uses the speed at which you're moving to control how the gimbal is going to move, and it does it all automatically. Now in this mode, it's going to follow both on your tilt and pan axis, but it's going to lock your roll axis. Now the other modes are common modes that you'll find in gimbals. You're going to have follow mode, which locks your roll motor but allows your pan and tilt to move fluidly. You also have a pan follow mode, and this is where the tilt and roll motors are both locked, but the camera will pan with you as you turn. And both of these modes are going to keep your horizon completely level. And that's one of the big things about working with a gimbal is it keeps your horizon perfectly level if you're in one of these modes. So you don't see this shift of the camera, which definitely could happen when you're hand-holding. You might have this little wobbly motion, even with the stabilization built into smartphones. Now there's also an FPV mode, which unlocks all of the motors, and it simulates this first-person view that you would find on like a small FPV drone. And then there's also lock mode, which locks all of the motors, so the camera stays locked in one direction, no matter how you're moving your gimbal. And then there's also Active Plus. And so when you turn on Active Plus, it makes all of the gimbal moves respond faster. So you could use this in any of the other modes, but the gimbal itself is just going to move faster. So it's used for things like running shots or where you're working with a super fast subject. Now the next thing we need to talk about is the tracking that's built into the Insta360 Flow. So you have Deep Tracking 3.0, and there's two ways that you can initiate this tracking. You either tap on the trigger once, or you draw a box on the screen and you can select a subject and it's going to start tracking that subject. Now with this tracking, there's some features that allow you to make it a little bit easier to track your subject. So one of the features is the always on tracking. So if you're tracking a subject and they go behind something, the gimbal's going to continue to move in the same direction until that subject pops back out from whatever object that is. So when I was tracking my friend through these Joshua trees, the tracking stays locked on even when the person disappears, and it tries to find them on the other side of the object. So it makes for a much more fluid experience when you're tracking a subject and things are going between you and that subject. Now, one of the cool things that I found with tracking is that your subject doesn't always have to be center frame. So once you're locked onto your subject, you could shift them to the left or to the right, so you could come up with more creative compositions when you're tracking a subject, and they don't always have to be dead center. And you could use this tracking in a variety of ways. You could use it while you're doing slow motion, or you could use it while you're zooming in and out. And if you're someone who's doing live streaming, well, you could use the tracking and it's going to just keep you in the frame at all times, no matter what you're doing on your live stream. Now we need to talk about the built-in selfie stick. So beyond the built-in tripod, you also have a selfie stick that extends your phone away from the control grip. So this makes it super easy when you're doing things like vlogging yourself, so that you can get the camera out and away, and it's more comfortable when vlogging, so you're not holding your hand like this trying to get your shot, but you can hold your hand comfortably and just extend the camera out. It's also useful if you want to get some creative shots where you're getting the camera down low and you don't want to have to like bend over weird to get the shots. I found when I was out in the desert filming with this gimbal, I would use the selfie stick to just make it a little bit easier to shoot some different shots where the camera's not always eye level. Now, beyond the ways that you could use this gimbal just to get smooth footage, there's also some additional features that are built into the Insta360 app that expand the creative potential using this gimbal. The first is Shot Genie. It's an AI tool that recommends and gives you ideas on how to shoot a scene, and it will edit it all together. So how it works is you pick a scene that matches what you're filming, and it's gonna go through and tell you a series of shots that you should do and help you through the process when you're filming them. Now, beyond Shot Genie, the Insta360 Flow also has some different creative effects that allows you to get some interesting shots. So the first is the 360 panorama mode. You could do a 360 sphere, 240 degrees, 180 degrees, or even a 3x3 grid format. So if you want to take bigger panoramic photos, it's easy to do on this gimbal. There's also the ability to do a barrel roll so that when you're in the FPV mode, you use the zoom ring on the side, it's gonna allow you to do a barrel roll with your camera. And also with this gimbal, you could do a dolly zoom. So that's where you push in on your subject while zooming out, and it creates that Hitchcock effect where the background seems to be stretching or shrinking. Now you also have access to do hyperlapses with this gimbal, so you could stay locked on to something in a distance and be able to do a time lapse as you move the gimbal in different ways. Or you could do a motion time lapse where you set the gimbal down on its tripod and you could pick some different keyframes, and the gimbal's gonna automatically move and create a time lapse as it's moving slowly through that sequence. So overall, there's a ton of features packed into the Insta360 Flow that makes it more than just working with a camera. The reason that you would get a gimbal is not only for smooth footage, but for all of these other features and just the ease of use when you're out filming. So let me know down in the comments what you think about the Insta360 Flow. And if you wanna see more information about this gimbal, I'll include a link down below in the description to where you can find out more about it. But next, you should check out this video right here, which goes through beginner versus pro gimbal moves so that you could get better shots when you're out filming with a gimbal. I'll see you over there.